Hello, 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 hello. Hello, let's start this and let's see what happens. Okay, so there was a playlist I was using the first two times we did this, and it was bad. And so I've decided to choose a different one, and I hope to God that it sounds good. It might not be. That's why I said horribly audio balanced, because I'm horrendous at audio balancing. But yeah, let's hope that this doesn't get me muted on the stream, and then obviously means it doesn't get posted on YouTube, which is just a real shame. Because, I want it to be that people can watch this stuff even when it disappears from my Twitch. Which, well, in fairness, it'll be a while, and also it'll only be that tiny bit that's muted. Anyway, enough about that. How is everybody? How was your weekend? Mine was pretty eventful, but I'll talk about it once we've started. Yeah, I hope everyone's been good. It's a bit weird because I do my 2 streams Monday, Wednesday, right? And then there's just sort of that long sort of time in which we're just sort of relaxing, and I don't have any streams like planned. But yeah, today instead of Disfigure, my plan is to play some of another game that I play casually just to have some fun. And today that'll be Hearthstone Battlegrounds. So, tell you what, let's just get right into it. Right into the news. Wait, I might get done in for actually saying that. Let's see if it can capture the game. If it doesn't do it automatically. Nope, there it is. You know what? I think we can do something like, if we do something like this, and we are like this, it's probably better in the long run. Anyway, everything seems to be working. Right, let's give this a start. Now I'm hoping that I'm not gonna have any problems with this, because Hearthstone, made by a small indie company, has a couple of issues occasionally, but we'll see. Anyway, I was talking about how the day is and how long it's been. Let me just do a quick talk through of my day. Sorry, my time since we last talked, since we last did one of these. Let's start it off with, let's see, Monday, after the stream, or maybe even before the stream, but at least I don't remember talking about it on the last stream. I got into a D&D series. If you're on my if you follow me on Twitter, I posted about it, but it's interesting. It's a group of people I've never sort of watched anything from before. And in terms of even knowing who they are, I only know, I'm going to take this one. Beasts really work well with this passive because they do a lot of summoning. That seems to be their strategy. But I didn't even really know all of them. But it's this Lost Mines of Phandelver, which is this module that D&D came out with. I think it's one of the first ones for this edition. And the whole shtick with it is that it was the first one. It's pretty decent from what I've seen of it. But they're planning on playing it as like a hardcore thing, which just sort of meant that they have a lot of custom rules, right? To make it harder for themselves. Such as like making sure you roll stats but you don't get to assign them. Which is interesting. And initially I thought it was going to be, I went into it a bit apprehensive, because I always am when I'm going into new sort of series. But it seems to really have the kind of style of D&D that I quite like, which is the more casual one. And what I say about that is not to try and disparage any other series, but stuff like Critical Role, or like really any... I found a lot of the time when you any sort of one where you have the same group, but they've done several series, it loses to a certain extent, in my opinion, this sort of like casual feel to it, you know? I tell you what, I'm going to move this, I'm going to make it quieter for myself, but turn it up for you guys. It loses that casual feel, in my opinion. The sort of, the sort of like, oh, this is something that could happen in your group kind of feel. And I think they have that with this group, even though it's seemingly a very experienced DM at this point. But yeah, it's to me it's been quite it's been quite fun to get into, because they seem to be very good at making characters that... There's a lot of deaths in this, right? At least early on, and they seem to be very good at making all of them seem to be very good at making characters that instantly I get an attachment to, right? Instantly I'm like, I don't want this character to die. And that's quite hard to get, like, that quickly. You know, I don't know, I haven't had that really before with any other characters, where instantly I've been like, oh god, I hope this person doesn't die. Normally it takes a couple sessions and something major really to happen for me to go, okay, now I'm invested in this person, you know? Oh, thank you for the follow. So yeah, I've been really getting into this D&D series, The Lost Mines of Phandelver Hardcore, and I honestly think it's one of those ones. Yeah, I don't need that, thanks. I'm just doing this as a hobby. But thank you for that, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate the offer though. So yeah, like the Lost Mines of Phandelver Hardcore thing, it's become like a series that I watch listen to while at work. And honestly, it's good enough that it's making me, cause I'm waiting for it to be done. I'm only watching it when I'm at work. It's making me like look forward to going to work, so that I can watch it, which is insane to think about, right? At least for me, and so that's been pretty good. So that's sort of what I've been. The major thing that's been that happened like Monday. Honestly, Tuesday generally was pretty normal. No particular like big things happened or anything. The only other, I'd say, big thing that happened since we last like did one of these is, I tell you what, I'm going to sell this one just to get some more money. That might be a problem. I might have screwed myself over there, but I think it's the right idea. The only other like big thing that happened, I guess, was I've finally, and it's funny that this coincides actually with the D&D that I've been started watching, but we sort of, my group sort of started and did the session 0 for our latest latest D&D campaign of our own. It's in a custom world that the DM had made, which honestly, that's the only kind of D&D I've done, has been in custom worlds, and I just, it kind of feels like the standard. I don't know if there's... I'm sure there's a decent amount of people that play the base sort of like D&D world, but I don't know, I think there's so much more interest in something that's been... The person that's DMing you knows everything about it because they've, you know, built it from the ground up. Well, at least that's what it feels like. It feels like it's really good. but yeah, I'm pretty happy with my character. I'm going for the idea of like, I'm not gonna go into huge amounts of detail with it because you know it's a private thing. There's no need to talk about it here. But the whole shtick with it is that we all worked for a lord, right? Some sort of powerful lord, and they've effectively kidnapped that lord, weakened and kidnapped that lord, and brought him to the other side of the world. And we've gone on a journey to get him, and obviously avenge the people who took him. So what's really interesting about it that at least I'm a big fan of, is this sort of, we're kind of doing this whole like fish out of water kind of thing, but also there's like an obvious goal at the very start that unites everyone, which is a really cool idea. So I've gone for this idea of like somebody who is part of a group that have like a long-standing they're a long-standing military family, and the whole shtick with it is that all the others has gotten like really power hungry, and so they betrayed our lord. And my character, because he idolized his grandfather that was a lot more loyal and traditional, he obviously didn't join them when they decided to betray the lord, and now has made an oath to affect, I guess, to his lord really, but mainly just an oath to himself more so than anything. That's to like, you know, obviously find his family and sort of make the legacy that his grandfather has and the legacy of their family, sort of redeem it. And so I really liked the concept of this character, and he went through several iterations before we got to session 0, and I know you're not really supposed to go into a session 0 with a fully formed idea, but there was some lore stuff that I still needed to know about, and there were a decent amount of changes and final decisions that were made on the session 0, so I hope that's fine. You know, I've always been as a little side tangent, I've always been one of those people that I think I can't really practice what I preach very well, because if you asked me what you're supposed to do when you're like starting a new campaign, I'd be like, okay, you go into an in-depth session 0, that's where you make all your characters, you make sure they have like personal connections if that's needed, and you know, you talk through everything with your DM and learn all the questions and stuff. Whereas what I actually did on the what actually happened, and it's obviously it's my fault as well because I was a major part of this, was that I felt like a lot of people went into that session already knowing what they were, and that's just it's not ideal. It's I think one of my pet peeves about myself is that I know that that's not the right thing to do for me to do at the very least. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this person that's incredibly driven to get revenge. I don't think I've sort of played a character like that before, and so I'm hoping that, you know, it's something new that I can sort of try out. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that, because it has been a decent while since me and the sort of the gang that I do D&D with have actually done D&D together. Not because of anything big, it's just, you know, something ends like I'm gonna freeze this just to get this dude. I'm annoyed that I only have 2 gold, but there's nothing I can do there. it's nothing anything like, there's no like party conflicts or anything like that. It was just, you know, we TPK'd in our last one, and so I think the morale was kind of just like, okay, we need a bit more we need some time after this. And so yeah, it's really good to see that it's starting up. And then my other friend, who also is the DM, they sort of, you know, they occasionally switch or like go either side, you know, alternate weeks to give them a couple weeks to, you know, strategize and come up with a session. He's sort of been adding more to his world that he's slowly making, which I'm a big fan of, because I'm, you know, I quite like his world as well. So I can't wait to see, to, you know, play in that world. And I did this. I've got the same problem there as well. I already sort of have a character idea, and by sort of I mean to the point that he knows it, and like I think it's influenced what he's worked on in terms of like lore, because I've talked about it with him. But yeah, look, I'm not perfect when it comes to this stuff. I don't really. I've never really said I am, but that's so lucky, by the way. But I will say that, like, at least I know that I'm like this. It could be worse, I guess. I could be one of those people that doesn't know that. I don't know. I'm just rambling at that point. I think it's just a problem I need to solve with myself, really. But yeah, that's a big part of my life at the moment. I'm looking forward to playing this sort of stern, borderline suicidal in terms of his goal to get like his planted, you know, his goal in general, and in his revenge. And so I'm looking forward to playing that and seeing if I can stick to it, because I've had this problem, and I've talked about this. I think I probably talked about this back when I was reviewing subclasses or classes. I have a problem of getting into character, which isn't great to say when you're doing an RP related thing. But I have this problem, and I've had it for a while, where I start off with a solid idea for a character, and I think I'll give it like a solid like backstory and like all that stuff. You know, I think I start off right, but then very quickly the character just becomes what I would do in that situation. Obviously, knowing that it's a video, like not a video game, but like equivalent to a video game. It'd be what I would do if I was like playing it as an RPG, and not what my character would do in that situation. And so I think it really limits my ability a lot. And it's something I'm trying to work on, but I still, it's a slow progress thing, right? But yeah, I'm hoping that I can play this person, because I found that if I give myself strict rules and like stuff to follow, like a strong sort of like set of values that they believe in, right? I've found that in general that's been okay. Right, it's going to repeat because I'm gonna check to see how my thing's going. Alright, let's pause this. Oh, perfect. That's actually perfect. Good on me. It's just, I think, loud enough. Yeah, so that's been really interesting, and I do really like his world, and it's the same world we did the previous campaign in, and so I'm very glad that we're doing it in that world again, because I think I've been sort of blessed with having two DMs that are very good at world building. Like, very, very good at world building. I mean, like, all the worlds they've made, I've never had a particular problem with them, right? And there's always been something in the lore that gets me hooked on a certain, whether it's a certain god in some games, whether it's a certain like little bit of lore, or even a place or country that has made me go, I'm making a character based on that. So that's always been a sort of blessing I've had when it's come to sort of like the general worlds that the people I have as my DMs make. Is there's always been something like that. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to playing some D&D. It's just been such a long time, and so it's going to be fun to do that. Yeah. I guess I should probably talk about the game, seeing as I've been going for like blooming 21 minutes and I barely talked about it. I'm going a heavy beast build because this, as I said before, Sprouted Out is so good when combined with beasts, because the main they're sort of, with each of the tribes in this game, there is sort of two ways you can play it, and with the beasts, I like to play them very heavily, just summoning stuff and getting buffs to the summons. Whereas you can sort of play it, it's slightly different. I think Beast is the one where it isn't as obvious, but you can play it slightly different, where instead of it being the whole point is you summon a load of stuff, it's instead the whole point is that you have a load of stuff die. And it's only slightly different, I think. But there's some that were more obvious. Like, there is the mech sort of angle, and the mech one is a bit iffy, because the whole shtick with it is that you have magnetize, right? So you can magnetize a load of stuff onto it. But then there's also a way you can go where it's very similar to this, where it's all just about summoning a load of stuff and buffing that stuff, right? Whereas another one is just heavy magnetize and stuff relying on magnetize. So there's always sort of two ways to go. And also what's really cool is that you don't have to go tribes, right? There is also, as you can sort of see with this person, he's gone mostly mechs, right? But then you see that there's this mech that says, after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give a minion in your hand +2/+2. Now there is a build where you just go Divine Shields, right? The whole shtick with it is, like, all it is heavy Divine Shields, and then buffs that care about you having Divine Shields. So whether it's this thing that buffs them for every time you lose a Divine Shield, I don't remember what some of the later ones are, but like there used to be one where if you lost a Divine Shield, it got a buff. So things like that. And I think this is, I don't know if you remember, but ages ago, it feels like ages ago, but it probably was like 2 years ago, there was a huge craze when it came to auto battlers. It started with, I think it was It was like a Dota one, I think. I guess I'll take this. It started with the Dota one. And it really hit off, you know, every streamer was playing it and stuff. It was like, it became the thing, you know, it was like Among Us in the sense of like, it was the thing that people were playing for a while. All the big streamers and all that. I think I'm gonna get rid of him, and I know that seems weird, but I just want this to, if it gets hit, to activate. And that whole craze happened, and then there was loads of little ones that were made, like Dota Underlords, Teamfight Tactics, and this was made in that sort of time as well. And I think this is one of the few successes that have come from it. I think it's this and Teamfight Tactics that sort of survived the hype disappearing. And I think it's just because this one's very simple. It sort of uses the system that was already in place, but just adds like an extra layer. And for me, it's one of those things that's so easy to just sort of casually, like, turn your brain off, play a bit of this, and just sort of relax. And I think that's the kind of games that I look for kind of like the midweek sort of game. So other than my stream that I do on Wednesdays, I don't really stream. I don't really play like any game that you kind of have to think for, if that makes any sense. A lot of the time I'll go into it and I'll try, like, believe me, back when I was going through the Far Cry series, for example, and I was really, really hyped about it, you know, I had that, like, itch that I occasionally have to, oh, thank you for the follow, I really appreciate it. I had that sort of itch to sort of, and I get this with RPGs, where it's just like, I want to play through all of this. I want that guy. I think it might be worth just getting rid of the sewer rat. Although this summons something better than these. Yeah, that makes sense. But when that happens, even when I'm really, really hyped about a game and, like, you know, I'm about to sort of like play it every day, every hour until I finish it, or until that rush disappears, I still find it a bit hard to play games after work, because it feels quite, you know, it feels mentally exhausting, and I'm not going to act like my job's particularly hard. My job isn't. It's boring, it's a bit mind-numbing, but it's not particularly hard, or like, you know, it's not. I'm not a builder that's going around like doing hard labor all day. But you come back from work and you sit in your chair, and for me at the very least, all the energy just goes, right? And when that happens, I find it very hard to decide to pick up something that requires me to do any form of thinking. And I know that this sounds like the most laziest thing you've ever heard, but it's the truth. It's the truth of what I go through. Ooh, this doesn't feel like jazz, but okay. And when that happens, like, I just want to play something that turns my brain off, and this is one of the games for that, where I'll be honest, like, there are people who play this and they are professionals, and then what they'll do is they'll, like, first couple rounds they're just sort of playing to keep their health, or just to make sure that they're better in the late game, and, you know, they don't commit to one tribe, or because if they commit to one tribe, then it you know, there might be another one that's just much better that they can sort of hedge their bets against. I go into this, and I'll be completely honest, I pick my hero, and I pick the easiest one. If the one is tribe specific, I'm almost certainly picking it, because that's made my choice already. And then I'd say first round probably, I pick which tribe I'm going to be based on which are the first ones I pick. And if I don't find it then, I find it in either in the next one or the one after, and once I've picked, I'm stuck with it, right? The only thing that I've changed about that recently is when I see people like this who have a mech specific one, I now can sort of, because I know the heroes now, I know that, like, okay, well, I won't choose mech because they're gonna go mech, right? And 99% of the time it doesn't work and I finish like 7th. You know, I finished second last. But that's not the point, is I'm not really playing this, and it's not really the point of this stream. This stream is brain empty. I just want to play something and talk casually, right? And so I think this is perfect for that. And also, it's one of the rare things that's related to Hearthstone and Blizzard in general that isn't, you know, you can play this completely free and you're not really at that much of a debuff. I don't get half as many heroes to choose from, which is the only in-game disadvantage I get for not paying, which sounds like a lot. And it probably would be if I cared about any of these results, right? But if you compare it to, like, the other parts of Hearthstone, like the constructed parts, I'm using Magic the Gathering terms because that's the terms I sort of grew up learning. They're in a situation where, like, you want to keep up with the meta, you're paying, I'd say, I might be underselling this, but 40 quid an expansion just to get all the cards needed to continue with the meta, whatever the meta is at that point. I like this guy. I like self-buffing things, and I like things with Divine Shield, because near the end, you're getting to such high levels of attack that all that really matters is how the trade goes, right? And if this can trade for 2 things, then it's done its job. But yeah, I've been playing this one for a while now. I'd say maybe 2 to 3 years, and that might be an understatement. And it's just always been one of those things that I can't really complain about it. And honestly, I'm quite lucky because recent news, and I normally don't keep up with Hearthstone news. Recent news, the duels format's going, which is a real shame. I don't like how it said welcome to the chat room twice there, implying that maybe my stream went down briefly. I hope it didn't go down briefly, but there's literally nothing I can do until I come off stream to know if that's true or not. So I just gotta hope. But yeah, I quite like this game. I think it's the rare situation where I feel like Hearthstone had a bit of like a bit of a W, you know, a format that you can't really complain about. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there is people who are more into this kind of stuff. I'm sure they're like, you're a bloody idiot. XYZ is really bad about a really bad part of Hearthstone, and the fact that you don't know about this, blah 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 blah. In the opinion of a casual observer, and I mean, if I'm being honest, probably like slightly more than a casual observer, because I watch Hearthstone content and occasionally they'll talk about the big news things, right? Such as like X or Y is busted, like when Guff was busted. So I think I'm slightly above the average player of this game in terms of news I get. Not in ability, by a long shot, Jesus. But in like news that I get and stuff. I kind of want to freeze it to get this guy because he's really good, but I'm not. I'm gonna, against my better judgment, I'm not. But yeah, I haven't seen any problems with this. I'm sure later on maybe some stuff was busted, but it's never felt like that for me. Not at all. So yeah, that's sort of how my week's gone, and that's sort of an explanation of this game. It's a deceptively simple game, I think. With lovely bits of art, I will say. They do knock it out of the park with art. And I've yet to hear, but I mean, knowing how things work, I wouldn't be surprised if I do hear this. I've yet to hear that they're using AI art in any capacity, so that's good. In this day and age. I think in terms of all the tribes in this, because as you can see here, you got Beast, Dragon, Mech, Murloc, Quillbore, and then there's a bunch that aren't in it, like Demons, Elementals, Naga, Pirates, Undead. I think out of all of them, the one that always speaks out to me and has always been the most fun, especially actually this iteration, because obviously they change up the sort of format every season. Honestly, it's the demons. The demons are by far my favourite to play. Their whole shtick is that they're all about damaging yourself for a benefit. So the basic unit you want to get is the music stopped? Oh no, it's good. The basic unit is a dude who he's simply there, and it's that every time you play a demon, I damage you for 1 damage to your health. So literally the thing that keeps you alive. But I gain I think it's +2, +1 or something. And so you want to get him, and then you want to get the dude who his whole shtick is that every time he takes damage, he reverses it and you don't take damage. Which is huge. Right? God, this song's really cartoony. Proper like slapstick. But yeah, it's always been my favourite to go them, because you can start taking risks that normally you'd never do because you're taking health damage. But you don't care about that because you have the rewinder there that just goes, nah, you didn't take the damage. You know, I'm a big fan of that, honestly. I get +2, +1. That's 7? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, cool. Seeing as I have a free one, I may as well put a Divine Shield on him. This is really upbeat. I quite like it, actually. But yeah, I always love that because you got stuff like, hey, you can take these spells, but the first time you take one of them, it costs health instead of mana. But you don't care about that because you got your rewinder that rewinds it. You've got one that's like, hey, you get 2 free rerolls, but they cost health instead of mana, and you're like, oh, I don't care about that. I just use the soul rewinder. And in addition to rewinding all the health that you would be taking, it also goes like, hey, Also, this thing gets like 1 health every time you do it. And so there's ways to get it loads of attack where it becomes a actual like scary thing in battle as well, which is really, really cool. I like that combination. It's it is my favorite, but close second is probably going heavy magnetism on the mechs, because I'm always a big fan of, and this is probably the reason why in like other games where like Magic the Gathering that I sort of, I wouldn't say I'm into it, because I've actually straight up never played a game of it in real life. I've played a bit on the online client. But I'm always a big fan of Hydras in that game, because they are one of two things. Either you put all your mana into it and it becomes powerful depending on how much mana you put in, right? Or the whole shtick about them is they grow. And I'm a huge fan of growing threats in games. If I can play something and it's like, well, you better kill this thing, or else you know it will kill you in the end. I love those kinds of stuff. That's why I've been a heavy fan of green mana in Magic, because that's big dudes but also grow threats. Or like life gain in white, because a lot of the time life gain stuff, it'll be like if you gain life you also gain +1/+1 or something, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I find this, you know what's also very good about this game specifically for relaxing, is there's these long periods that get progressively, I think it gets longer and then it hits a cap of time that obviously they expect you to be using to, you know, strategize, pick your new units and stuff. But if you've done your stuff really quick, this is just time where you could be watching the video on your second monitor, or like sort of like, you know, even stuff like just getting up and doing something very, very quickly, like getting yourself a drink or something, you can kind of do in that 40 seconds plus the battle kind of thing. And so it's I find that really cool. But yeah, I was interested because I thought I'd sort of go into more about like the things I like, right? Because this is casual conversation, and at the end of the day, I want to, things I like, I want to talk about, right? So the other day, I was talking with my friends, and we were kind of going through, we were kind of like, it was the lunch break, and we were kind of going through like, I guess you could call them generic sort of icebreaker questions that somebody had found on the internet. Just because we thought it'd be fun to, I think I'm going to give it to you. We thought it'd be fun to sort of like answer a couple of them to see what our opinions were on them. And one of them came up that maybe as a common one, I hadn't had a, like, I had had a conversation about this before many times with other people. But it was, what kind of animal do you reckon you could defeat in combat, right? What kind of animal in a situation where you have no tools, they have no tools, you're in an area which has nothing that you can use, it's just fist on claw on, or like talon or something like that. What could you beat? And I was just so surprised that like people think they can beat a lot more than I think they actually can beat. I think we're in a situation here where you only have your fists, right? And to a certain extent, I believe that there are some things that you could fight that you can't damage physically with what we have. At least I couldn't with my build, right? So take like, this is an extreme example. I don't think anyone said they could beat this, but like say like a lion. Like lions have like, it's not a notably strong like tough skin, but they have tough skin, right? The fact that people think that they can even hurt those is to me insane, because in my head I'm like, and of course not, I can't hurt that thing. I don't think I could. I don't think if it stood there, like, and I was attacking its bare skin, I could do proper damage to it. Obviously, you got the eyes and stuff that are weak spots. But if you're in a situation where it's do or die, it cares, obviously, that its eyes are getting gouged out. But it doesn't change the fact that it's in a situation now where it knows it's do or die, and so it's going to fight as if it's that, right? I want this dude. We're gonna get rid of this dude, I'm gonna get him down, and we're gonna get him, because he's a grow threat, so obviously I freaking love him. Gets +1/+1 for every dragon. So I was just talking with them. I was like, guys, they were talking about stuff like they weren't talking about a lion, obviously, but they were talking about stuff like a stag, like you know, those like majestic stags you'll see in like forests and stuff, and they were like, yeah, I think I could. I just have to dodge the initial charge and I'd be fine. I was like, what? No, you wouldn't. These things are made to. They are evolutionarily made to be these strong fighters who deal with on regular. Their enemies have like blimmin' several inch claws, and we have at most like fingernails, right? You try and go for its eyes, you're getting near its blimmin' horns. Its horns are destroying you, right? I think it's a... I feel like it's a very similar thing to people that go like, I could take a kangaroo, I could take an ostrich or something. And then they get to that situation, and almost always what the conclusion is that they just get bodied instantly. Like, I can take this, it's just a... You know, it's not like me, it's not smart. And then it just scratches you with its talons, or it punches you in the blimmin' head with its feet. And then they're just, these people have like concussions and stuff. I think people grossly overestimate it. I think that must just be in general, because I feel like it's a lot more common than I actually think. Because immediately after I had this conversation, which I thought was, again, I picked the wrong one on there because I was brain empty at the moment. Because I was like, surely there's a load of people that agree with me, right? And I was surprised by how many people are like genuinely are like saying, hey, I can beat, you know, like a blimmin'... I mean, it's insane. Some people were saying that they could beat some flying animals. And to me, flying animals are all hard counters, right? I think there's very little... Obviously, like stuff like a sparrow or a robin, I think I could take in a one-on-one fight. But stuff like a vulture, I think I lose to a vulture instantly. Stuff like an eagle, I lose to an eagle instantly. Just because it comes down, it slashes at me with its claws, and I don't think I have the reaction speed, nor do I think I have the ability to take what... I don't have the ability to, in the process of getting slashed, grab it and do any damage to it. I don't believe. I think people grossly underestimate what you do in that situation. I really do, because I looked at that situation and said, like, I've got to hope that they think I'm so weak so that I get a situation where I can survive, because I do not think on average I can take anything that's equivalent size to me or bigger, right? I think that's the main thing for me. I think if I can't leverage my size against whatever I'm fighting, I think that I lose immediately. And I'm talking even like herbivores, because arguably herbivores are like worse, because they've learned some way of defending themselves against stuff that is bigger or stronger than them. I'm sure it doesn't work all the time, but they always make it so that they come out of it. Why would I pick this when this... Isn't this just better? Well, I'm going to pick it up as another dragon, but... I think they're like made to be like, okay, we're in a situation here where the people we're dealing with are bigger than us, they're better than us, they've got bigger claws, they've got bigger, you know, they've got some advantage over us that we can't beat. And then we've come up with another way of surviving, right? That's the whole shtick with a herbivore, that I think people sort of... I don't know if they underestimate it, or that was a lol order. But I think people overestimate what they can do without any weaponry, right? So I look at that, and if you give me a stone... If you give me a good quality stone hammer, or like a stone spear, I think I immediately change my attitude. Because you're giving me effectively a weapon that's better than most weapons that animals have, right? I think I get a lot more confident. I think I can take stuff that is equivalent size to me. Because if I'm being honest, I don't think I can take a medium-sized dog. Like, you know, like a... No, I'm not talking like a huge blimmin' one that is, you know, arguably bigger than like the average teenager. I'm talking like a medium-sized dog, but a dog that knows that they have to beat me to continue going, right? Because that's the logic behind this assumption, right? If we're in a situation where they don't know the time that I'm also coming at them, like I get them by the surprise, it changes up the whole thing, and it's not really fair. But if they know that I'm coming at them, then I think I'm screwed. I think most people are screwed. Because like a dog, like there's situations where a dog will like, you'll see it on the news and stuff where it's like a dog has attacked X, and it locks its jaw, and it took like 3 people to release the jaw, and they were trying their absolute best, right? It got on a little kid, it attacked them, it locked its jaw in with the bite, and like they had to like get like specially trained people in just to deal with it, right? I think I'm gonna get rid of this dude, because these just scale more, and I don't want to get rid of this guy, which I'll give a divine shield to. And I'm kind of hoping that this person who's already dead is like a free win for me. But yeah, like, when they know, and I think this is what people don't really sort of take into account, is the animals still have that instinct that they, you know, they innately have, which is to that like primal fight or flight experience, right? And I think that's something that doesn't really exist with us anymore, and because of that, I think that we are in a significantly worse situation when you take away all of the thing that makes us the most dominant. And weirdly, when I was talking about something similar to this in a conversation with one of my friends, it kind of, I came up with this weird thing where I was like, as I always do with these situations, I start swinging to like fantasy situations, right? And I came up with this question that was like, who would win? Okay, a regular grizzly bear. So like, it's not the biggest bear, but it's pretty big, right? You know, like we're not surviving it. Or like a unicorn. And I don't mean sorry, let's move this so you can see the battle. I don't mean like unicorn in mythology that like has magical powers and, you know, I'm sure can teleport or like heal wounds or something. I'm talking about who would win between effectively just a horse with a horn or a bear. And I don't, and to sort of give it a situation where it was like actually fair, because immediately my friends were like, well, the bear wins because it's a bear, and I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? So to make it seem a bit fairer, like, and I don't know if this changes anything, like, I'd be interested to see if anyone does think this changes anything. Do you reckon if the bear is, the bear's just a normal grizzly bear that's normal, but what you do is, what you add is that the horse is like a war horse breed. So you know the ones that are blimmin', they were trained to like be immune to loud sounds, and they don't run away with loud sounds, and they're bred for war. So they're like proper muscular, and you know, they're like properly scary, like as like an animal. And then you put a horn on that. I think there's a logical situation where when that charges you, if that charges you, no, I don't want that guy. If that charges you and you're a bear, and it gets you in the right spot, it wins, right? I think so, at the very least. I know it's a bit weird that I've got onto this tangent, but I was just thinking back to things I've talked about over this week, and that just sort of came into my head. By the way, I'm pretty sure I'm about to lose, because I'm pretty sure I'm the weakest player out of all of these players. I've kind of tried to hedge my bets by giving myself a bit more armor, but I honestly think that I think I've got myself stuck in between the two ways you're supposed to play dragons, because I'm not very good at playing dragons. I only feel confident playing mechs and demons. But if you pick the same one every time, it's boring, right? I'm pretty confident playing Quillboars as well. I think they're one of my favourite newer factions they added. Because I think initially the factions were Dragon, Beast, Mech, Murloc, Demons. I think. And then they added more factions in. I think there could have been more than that, because I feel like Elementals has been around forever as well, but I could be wrong. But yeah, our goal of getting first place, I don't think we've gotten that, but I could be wrong. My memory's horrendous. Anyway, so as you can probably guess, really into D&D, as I've been talking about it a bit. So I thought I'd go into like some of the other things I'm pretty interested in. I've got a pretty big interest in Warhammer as well. So I think my entry into Warhammer is one of my friends in college was just really into it and started talking to me about it, and like it got me hooked, right? I think I started getting into it weirdly at the start of Age of Sigmar starting. So if anyone knows about Warhammer, there's two sort of mainline, I guess, like products. There's Warhammer 40k, which is the sci-fi setting, and then there was Warhammer Fantasy, and they decided to end the sort of story of Warhammer Fantasy and do they decided that instead of that they'll do something set. It always does this, that's why I knew. As soon as it takes longer than like 20 seconds, you know something's going on. And they decided to end it with literally something called the End Times, and started up something called Age of Sigmar, which was the best way to put it is like if Warhammer Fantasy was a bit more grounded. Like, I'm not talking Lord of the Rings level, but not to the level where everybody's throwing out fireballs and stuff, right? You needed a specialist person to... have magic, and there was consequences and stuff. It went from that to a much higher fantasy thing where, take this for example. There used to be a unit you could get with the undead, with the vampires faction, which was vampires leading undead, right? There used to be a faction. I guess I'll take the pirate. There used to be a thing you could get in it called a ghost, and it was really scary because you couldn't really damage it unless you had a magical weapon, and that was a huge deal, right? Like, there are situations where like armies just don't have any magical weaponry, or they have it on one specific unit, and you kill that unit, and you're stuck in a situation where you just have this effectively invincible unit that you have to just, I guess, mitigate all the damage it's doing to you. In Age of Sigmar, that would never be a problem, because almost every faction has their basic troops probably have magical weaponry of some variety. And I mean, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the mainstay of the main faction in that is due to look a lot very similar to the main faction in 40k, in the sense that they're huge armored people that wear helmets most of the time, that are like super soldiers, right? And I think that's intentional. I think that's what they were trying to do, sort of bring in the people that liked 40k to do to also play into the Age of Sigmar stuff. So yeah, I got into that, and I'm a big fan of Age of Sigmar, and I think that's a bit of a controversial one, but it's an interesting setting, Warhammer in general. So in Age of Sigmar, it's the same sort of with fantasy as well. The kind of aesthetic and the kind of like feel of it for both fantasy and Age of Sigmar is the world's pretty shit, right? There's a lot of bad stuff happening, there's loads of bad factions, but it's not hopeless, right? The situation's not hopeless. There's good factions that are doing well, and they're not always losing. And as you know, it's a balance of power, you know. It's a situation where no side seems to get too much of an upper hand before another one comes in. 40k, on the other hand, which is the more popular series, it's hopeless. Like, there's so many factions that the sort of the generic human faction, like, they're screwed if they, like, eventually form this faction. It's very interesting to see the difference between them, and to a certain extent, and I'm kind of, it's weird. I think to a certain extent I get into the lore for bits of it, like tiny bits of it. So I don't mind. I mean, we've seen it because if you watch the Warhammer 40k Wednesday stream that I play Rogue Trader, and that's Warhammer 40k. If you sort of go, like, it seems hopeless, right? Especially with what happened in Act 1, which I won't spoil. But also you just see situations, like, you solve situations in that game. Like, when you look at it, like, from the small perspective, not the overarching wars or the overarching, like, main goals of the factions and their tech, it actually seems like it's relatively fine, and I like it. I like that part of it. I think the bit that sort of not puts me off, because I quite like it. I've done TTRPGs in it, in something called Dark Heresy, and I've played many games that have been around that whole thing. I think what occasionally I get, like, iffy on is when it gets really depressing. I like, in my settings in general, and most of the time I stick with fantasy because I'm a bit more of a fantasy person than a sci-fi person. I like my settings to have, I don't want them to be holding my hand, right? I don't want it to be one of those sort of all is bright, all is great, like, kind of like the good guys, they win without any problems, the bad guys, they lose, and like that kind of stuff, like kind of like the He-Mans and like the Saturday morning cartoons kind of thing, which always ends with, like, the Power Ranger kind of thing, where it's like evil person appears, evil person does evil thing, good guy beats good guy beats evil guy, the end. That kind of stuff. I don't like that. I don't like that sort of hand-holdy thing of that. But I also want there to be hope. I want there to be many situations where you'll see the good guys win, and it won't be a you won, but actually the XY's happened, and so you haven't really won. That kind of, like, the sort of half-arsed win that's like you do see a lot, where it's like you've won, but like actually that was the plan of the blimmin' main villain all along. That kind of stuff. I don't mind that occasionally, because it can be a kind of an interesting sort of thing to do. But if it feels like your main sort of hero or your, like, main protagonist is never winning, it to me makes me feel like, or like, I guess all your stories, like, they're never winning. To me, it doesn't feel interesting at all. It doesn't feel fun. I'm not getting into it. Like, it might be more realistic, but if I wanted realism, I'd look outside my window, right? That's not what I go to fantasy for. So I like there to be hope. I always like there to be hope. And there's sort of a level that I like where it's dark, but there's still hope, right? There's light at the end of the tunnel. That kind of shtick. It's hard to explain, but I think a couple of the D&D games, for example, have they've been able to hit that idea where, like, I've always felt like, oh cool, we're succeeding in doing X and Y, and we've dealt with that, and this gives us hope that maybe we can solve, X or Y problem, and, like, solve this horrendously bad situation and make it better. But also, it's unlikely, and the chips are stacked against us, if that's the right phrase. Like, everything is stacked against you. That kind of feel. Oh god, it's getting really upbeat. That kind of feel is sort of what I really like, and there's very few situations that get that, and I think that's me linking it back to what I was talking about 40k. You get that occasionally in the 40k settings where it's like it's hopeless, but we fought back this wave and maybe we can fight back the next. There's always hope, right? That sort of idea is, I don't know, it's hard to sort of get that idea with it. I think looping it back to the kind of conversation I started off with about the new series that I started, right? The new D&D series that I started watching. That series, like, the heroes are, in terms of setting, it's generally like quite a light setting, but like because of how hardcore it is and the deaths that happen and the fact that every fight is a hard fight, and especially early on, and that like one wrong roll and that person that you really love, doesn't matter if you really love them, they're dead. That sort of feel, like it I think it scratches that itch for me that I think is very rarely scratched, because it's like the setting, the people, they're quite happy-go-lucky, but like you're in the town's getting harassed by loads of stuff, and there's been many times where the great heroes have gone off to solve a problem, like, oh, there's a bunch of goblins that are harassing the roads and making it impossible for trade to happen, right? The great heroes go on a journey to solve said problem, and 3 of them come back, maybe less come back, and that sort of feel, I know it's so powerful, but I think it's the right decision. That sort of idea, I think, is really fun, and I think it's sort of my ideal sort of setting. I also I'm quite a big fan of higher fantasy stuff, right? It's a weird situation where, like, I really like having loads of cool abilities. I've never been interested in settings that I've had, like, stuff, say for example, like that's been really low powered. Like, it's like there's technically magic here, but it's such a small amount, and like it's so limited that it doesn't feel like it. Those sort of like ideas for settings have never interested me. They always sort of like, either they're something that I get very limited pleasure out of, or there's something that I don't continue reading, right? Because it's just not the kind of aesthetic I go for. But then also, it's weird, simultaneously, like, as much as I love those sort of settings, there's also a part of me that's like, I quite like, how do I say this? I've always been a big fan of sort of the low level parts of D&D. So I'm talking like maybe 4 to 8 have always been interesting to me, because you have abilities, you have spells. Like, you're in a situation where your wizards, your full casters, right? They're casting spells after spells. But you also have people you have your like your martial art, your martial classes that are doing, superhuman feats, right? But you also got a situation where you don't have a spell to solve every issue. If you're like, you lose an arm, you can't get it back. If if you're paralyzed or something, you don't have anything that you can do about it. Like, I'm really a big fan of that level, and I occasionally want it to stick to that level. There's a reason why a lot of modules, they end it once you get to like level 12, for example, because once you get into those later levels, you're in a situation where you have especially with magic casters, you just can solve any problem. And I think that's a problem with media in general when you get to that level, where you're just sort of like, you're sort of in a situation there where you can just solve everything. Like, there's no real problem to anything. And I do agree that, like, that sort of level of stuff just doesn't interest me, right? And that is definitely a level that you can have your... I remembered this time. I know you were probably all screaming at me. That's sort of a level that I think, there is people who like that kind of thing. And generally when people think high fantasy, I think that sort of is what goes into their mind as well. I should get rid of you. I will freeze these. But that's not really what I'm into. I think I'm into there being a lot of powerful magic, and like, I'm like a blimmin' kid at heart that just likes flashy colours and stuff. But on the flip side, I also want there to be, mundane things like a poison or a disease, or like even like a curse, right? Whereas like in D&D, when you get later on and you have removed curses mean nothing. Like base rules, obviously people probably redo it to be... They probably redo it to instead have like, oh, this curse is special and you can't get rid of it kind of things, but at base, it's just like, oh, you've cursed me, who cares? I have a cleric on my team. The cleric just deals with it. And so, I think generally that's my sort of aesthetic with this stuff. Although I'm not sure, because I'll be honest, like half of what I'm saying right now is me thinking this stuff up on the fly and sort of positing, like thinking up questions for myself to then talk about on the stream, right? Which I think generally, like, to a certain extent, I think people would be a bit confused about why someone like me, well, not like me, just someone in general, would choose to like stream on Twitch, something like just in general, but not take it 100% seriously. I think it's a rarity for stuff like, for people to, I don't know, I think it's a rarity for people don't think this kind of stuff happens, right? That's probably screwed me. I'm probably dead now, but I was dead either way, I think. I'm not really good with pirates either. I'm sort of setting this up as if I'm going to be really, really good once I play a mech or a demon, but I don't actually think I'm that good with that either. There's a reason why I call it a brain empty thing. But yeah, I think one of the things that I'm really, one of the things that I think is, one of the things that, hold on a second, let me just pause this because I think this is quite important. One of the reasons I've decided to do this as a hobby, and although I don't think anybody's explicitly said it, I've had situations where somebody's come into the chat and it's been the same thing because every person who's come into this chat at this point that's talked has been somebody trying to sell me something, right? I mean, it's sad, but it's true. It's slightly annoying, but what can you do? They're trying to make a living, so I can't really fault them for trying. And none of my particular logos or like anything is particularly unique or interesting, so I could see why they would take me as a target audience. But one of the things that one of them said a while back was they asked me if I streamed daily, and I said no, I'd stream like once a week, and they went, oh, so you're not doing it as a, you're not a professional then? And I'm like, you're not doing it as a profession? I'm like, no, I'm doing this sort of as a hobby. And I think that's a bit weird for people on here to do it with no intention of it ever going as far as, like, with no expectation of any kind that it's going to become like a career or anything, right? I think a lot of people that start doing this, they go in with the idea that, like, I want to do this as a career. It's going to start as a side job, but like my end goal is for it to be a career. And honestly, there's three reasons. There's three reasons why I just have decided to start streaming, right? One of them, honestly, this is going to sound stupid, but it's 100% true. One of the reasons, I tell you what, no, I can put the music back on. I don't know why I turned it off in the first place. Why not have some upbeat stuff? It sounds like it's from Star Wars. You know, like the do 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 do. But one of the reasons I started streaming is to gain myself some confidence, because I've not been very good at talking with people, and my thinking was, okay, what I can do here is, if I get people that are chatting that aren't, that actually are interested in having a conversation or like talking with me and stuff, then I can sort of work on my speaking to new people, and maybe I can sort of be in the mindset of it being like I'm streaming when I'm talking to somebody new in the real world, right? I think that's one of the biggest reasons. The second one is I have this, and I talked about this earlier, I have a real problem of playing games and doing really anything after I go from work, right? I feel so exhausted after work that actually, if I give myself a time slot and I go like, okay, this is the slot that I am going to play my game, right? And then I make it sort of more official, at least in my head, by going, not only is this going to, I do this every time, because he's a beast Naga, I'm like, ah, cool, I go Nagas, but Nagas aren't a thing. Damn, that's not good. Well, that one's good. I'll stick with that. Sorry, back to what I was saying. It's like, if I give myself a time slot, and I go, okay, this time slot, I'm going to make it my job, well, not my job, but my hobby, and and go, this is the time slot I'm doing it at, I do it. Like, I'll be completely honest, the Wednesday stream when I do Rogue Trader, I would not be playing it on a weekday if it wasn't for the fact that there was a stream there that says I am playing it. And that's the day that I do it. None of the other days am I playing games. When it isn't the weekend. And that's a major part of why I do this. Another major part of this is, how do I explain this? Sorry, it's really hard to sort of put into words, but I have a couple of really good friends, right? I've got, you know, I talk to them a lot. I talk to them, I'd say maybe once, twice, maybe even 3 times a week for long periods of time. I play games with them and all that stuff, and that's, in the scheme of my life, a relatively new thing. From, I'd say, primary school to the end of high school and into the first 2 years of college I did. Because the way my birthday was, I could go in for another 2 years because I hadn't technically become 18 when I signed up for it. And a story for another time, but I did horrendously and I didn't take anything seriously the first time around. But throughout that time, I had friends that I talked to in classes, and, you know, I hang out at lunch and stuff. But whether it's because I'm not very sociable, or whether it's because, I don't know, maybe I considered them closer friends than they considered me, it ended there, right? I would finish school, and say we're going on the summer holidays, I'm just not seeing them for 6 months. That's just how it's happening. But, you know, I never saw them out of class unless there was a birthday. I never went round to their house. I never talked online with them. Like, if there's levels to friendship, they were sort of like, they're friends, but if anything, they're more like, they were closer to like what I consider my work colleagues right now, where I can talk like with them about topics, and, you know, some of them are interested in gaming, so I can talk to them about gaming and stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it ends there. I don't talk to them outside of work. They are work specific friends, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because as soon as I got those friends that I'm talking about, I realised what the fuck I was missing, right? I realised that there's times where I was spending 6 weeks just with the only contact being my mum. Was time where I was missing these proper like friendships where you have like, incredible experiences. Like, this will sound stupid, right? I never knew how good co-op games were until I had friends that I could play them with, and I realised that blimmin' anything that you play with your friends instantly is just 10 times more fun. I've played horrendous games. Like, I'm talking, like, I've said this before, but like a really bad, like, quickly made game that was working on the trend of everyone talking about raiding Area 51, but via Naruto running, right? I've played that game lots of times with my friends, and it was so fun. But it wasn't a great game in the scheme of things. It's no blimmin' Last of Us, is it? Or Baldur's Gate, I guess, if we're talking about a game I actually like. But like, realizing like how that is like it felt great for one thing, and like I'm kind of hoping, like this is my goal, is to have a community here that not only allows me to have more people like that, more friends that I can jump in and talk to, because I mean the more the merrier, right? It can't get it can only get better from having more people, right? But also having a community that maybe can be, they can be the sort of, they can be what my friends were to me for this person, right? So people going through a similar thing to what I was going through, which is, I didn't realize at the time, was severe case of just antisocialness, and I don't know if I could call it loneliness, because I was fine until I figured out what I was missing. But as soon as I knew what I was missing, I realized that I was stupid, and I needed, like, I couldn't go without this again. And so, I don't know, like, that's sort of one of the reasons. I think they're the three main reasons, right? It's get over public, like, I guess public speaking, but talking to new people. Getting myself actually playing games instead of sitting here and doing absolutely nothing, which I have been doing for the past however many years I've lived in this world. And making sure that I can breed a community that can can be the friends that I didn't have until much later in my life. For people, breed a community where you can have those friends. What the frick is this? What is this song? No, I don't want that song. I think, like, in general, I don't think that's too bad of like I don't think that's too hard of a goal to have, really. I think it'll take time, obviously, because all of this takes time, but like, I think one of the added bonuses of doing this as a hobby instead of actively thinking of this as anything more than that is I look at this and go, like, oh, I've made, say I've made like two people. I've made, like, I've got 2 followers today, say, for example. Those 2 followers, that I'm fine with that. Like, that's enough for me, right? Whereas I think if I went into this with the idea that I was trying to do this as a professional thing, I'd be going like, what am I doing wrong? What more is there that I need to add? Like, what? I would never feel like satisfied, right? And maybe that's wrong, but maybe I'm wrong in this, because I'll be honest, there's not many things in my life that I can point to that I've said that I've put absolutely 100% to this. So I could be wrong, and maybe, like, the average person, they can set decent boundaries and what would be realistic goals, and it doesn't hound them too much. But I don't know. I love the lack of pressure that exists when doing this kind of stuff. It means that I can finish a stream and I can go, like, breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that no matter what happens, like, I can leave this going, I'm fine. I'll take the coin one. Why? I can breathe a sigh of relief knowing, like, I've done what I wanted to. I left this feeling good. And no matter what, even if I make 0 followers, even if I lose followers, right? I know that I've done the best that I can do, and even if I fail, it doesn't really matter, because I went into this for personal growth and not like... I went into this for personal growth and not growth in the sense of, like, you know, any monetary gain or like that, or like what other people really think of me. Which is weird to say about something where at the end of the day I'm broadcasting myself out to the world, right? But in general, it doesn't really matter what other people say, or like what other, if there's other people watching. As if I'm having fun doing this, I will just simply continue to do it, right? And it means that I have no pressure on any day, even if I've scheduled a stream. I'm under no pressure to even continue doing that one if I don't need to. Like, if I don't feel like it. I'm under no pressure to, you know, like, I saw somewhere that to be a quote-unquote, like, if you want to do this as a profession, you got to stream 4 days and you got to stream minimum 4 hours for each of them, right? And I was like, I looked at that and went, that's not something I reasonably could do anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but at this point, no, that's not feasible for me, and I know that's not feasible for me. And so, coming out of this and going, yeah, I'm going to go at this at the speed I want to go at, which started out with 1 stream a week, and it's moved up to 2 streams a week, and slowly, like, gain some technical skills in the process. If I gain anything positive from this, then it's just a bonus, right? Slowly improve what I have. Like, one of the goals, I put this on Twitter, but one of the goals that I have for this year is stream more, which I instantly did by adding a second stream. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but I've effectively doubled how much I'm streaming. And it was to get myself an avatar, right? Something that represents me. Because at this point, I'm just like a disembodied voice. And I've been looking into that. It's one of those things where if you look at and you want good quality, say you really want to get into... Say you really like... You're like, okay, I want to try like VTubing, for example. Because I don't particularly want to show my face. If I wanted something that's proper good quality, looking around, it's like blimmin' 800 quid. Or like 600 quid, right? And I'm sure that's actually reasonable for like the amount of work they're putting in. But that's not a purchase I can do with ease, right? That's not a small purchase. So, you know, it's one of those things that I have to take my time and I have to think about it, and, you know, it may be that I never get to that New Year's resolution, because I just find myself either it's too expensive, or I just don't want to make the commitment of spending that money. I mean, I'm the kind of person that when it comes to character ideas, I have a character idea and I'm like, this is my idea. And then my friends will tell you this immediately afterwards. I tell you what, I'm using this. I'm too scared. I'm too scared of just having it there. Right, and they'll tell you this. What'll happen is I'll have a character idea, and I'll be like, this is what I'm going for, right? Oh, you can't attach them after it's placed. And I'll have that throughout the whole situation they're making their world, right? I'll be like, yep, this is my character. Yep, this is my character. Yep, this is my character. Like my friend in what I was talking about earlier, the D&D session, he had this idea going on for like, I'd say 2 months. And first time he came up with the idea, it was like, I want to play a monk. I have an idea and everything. I'm not playing a monk in his game now 2 months later. And I was obsessed with playing a monk because I'm not decisive in this stuff. And I think one of the bonuses of how casual I'm doing this is there's no real need to be there's no real need to be like decisive about this stuff. Play it by ear, you know? When I decide that like I want to try out some like new technical stuff, I go, right, well I'm gonna do some new technical stuff then. It was like for a long period of time, all the way through my subclass and class reviews of D&D, I never once had these sort of like transition things, you know, like this and this. Never had them. That's a completely new thing in the scheme of things. But it was just one day I was sitting there and I was like looking at my friend's stream who had started, who I've done a stream with before. If you know that, and I think the VOD's still there. We played some EDF. Sadly, the game's the internet for it is not 100% good. But yeah, like I was looking at his stuff and I saw that he had found some sort of some free sorry, so I was just figuring some sort of stuff out there. Sorry. Had some free overlay stuff that he had found, and I was like, oh cool, that's really cool. I'm gonna look up some stuff with that. Looked around, found a free one they were showing off, and bada bing, this was made. And that's probably what will happen when it comes to, you know, most of the decisions I'll be doing here. It's all spur of the moment, because at the end of the day, like, I have that. I hope at the end of the day that if people are coming to the stream, they're coming to see me. They're not coming to see fancy imagery and stuff. And as long as the bare essentials are there, I can sort of take my time, like upgrading stuff as I see fit. And if that means that I'm not going to get along to doing an avatar this year, then that's so be it. That happens, right? I don't think that will happen, because at the very least I'll have a 2D, you know, one of those pictures that I think they're called like PNG tubers, where it's like it's a picture and it changes to a picture with like the mouth open when they talk. Minimum I'm probably having that, right? But I think that sort of idea and that mindset has very much helped for me to take this as a hobby instead of just any obligations, right? And I I think I put a bit too much pressure actually on myself by having just that. Weirdly, by having 2 streams, I think I've lessened the pressure to myself, because I think on the Rogue Trader one, I was trying to juggle like, okay, I've got to like try and talk to the chat while I've also got to be doing X. I've also got to be doing like talking about the story, you know, making voice acting, like making strategic decisions. And I think having one where the whole point of this stream is just I'm talking with you guys, and it seems to be successful, because I mean, as much as it can be successful when you're like the, you know, you're a small time streamer like me, I get more follows doing this, weirdly, than any of the other, like my long-term series. And I think to a certain extent it's because my long-term series now, it's gone past Act 1, right? So you're coming into it, you've got to either have watched everything else I've done, or you have to be in a situation where, like, you know the story up to that, and you're just coming to watch another person play through it. And I don't know, it's with this one, it's just brain empty talking with you guys, and you get to learn more about me and how, you know, I'm not great at tech stuff. Some of my interests, how I'm horrendous at coming up with new topics to talk about, which is pretty self-explanatory with what I'm doing here, where all I'm doing is rambling. That's why a lot of my early streams were rambling about, because I don't propose to be an expert or anything, but I could ramble about random stuff for ages. You know, I could ramble if I wanted to about D&D and my likes and dislikes about it for like forever. It's why I started out with it, because I was back when my friends started it. I was like, okay, well, if I want to also sort of try out this new thing as he is, I probably want it to be something that I know I can not only talk about for a long period of time, which I knew I could talk about that for a long period of time, but something that I'm heavily invested in, right? Something that I don't both have the knowledge for and the sheer amount of interest in. And then when I thought about that, it was a no-brainer, because I have and could easily talk about D&D for hours upon hours. And then I realised quickly, very early on that extended as well to that extended further on to just like I could do this with RPGs that have a lot of story to them, you know, like that allows me to very easily choose stuff. I can easily like choose something like you know, a heavily story based one, especially the CRPGs, and know that there's always going to be something there that I can talk about, so I'm never in a situation where I have to sort of come up with stuff on the fly, because I think that's the thing that I'm the most scared about. And even to this day, right, I'm like, even right now, I was bloody getting sorry for the language, but I was getting really scared of, am I going to be in a situation where, am I going to be in a situation where I'm just sort of sitting there and going, cool, I run out of things to talk about. Simple as. I'm sitting here, just sort of, there's no gameplay for me to talk about, and I'm just flagging. You know, there was always a part of me that was like, is that gonna happen? And I realized, and it's really hard for me because not just the fact that I'm autistic, but also the fact that I've always had that, and I think everyone has this to a certain extent. This sheer like instinctual fear of absolutely anything that's different than the routine I'm doing right now, right? It's deep rooted in me that it properly scares me when it's anything other than what I'm used to is happening, right? And so this thing has always been scary for me, and that sort of, I don't know, it's something I'm trying to deal with, right? And I hope I'm dealing with it. That was my idea for jumping into this, was that I'm hopefully going to try and deal with it. And I know I'm making mistakes. Anyone who's watching me now knows that I'm either forgetting stuff, I'm pausing for long periods of time, leaving dead air. And I know I'm making the mistakes. But I'm in the moment. Like, you know, I'm at the point where, like, it's stupid, but, like, I'm talking so much and I'm forgetting to breathe occasionally, and I'm getting lightheaded occasionally. It's properly scary, but I know that, like, it's the same thing that happened with new foods, right? For the longest time I was so picky with new foods, and then as soon as I decided that no, I'm not going to allow this to control me anymore, I'm going to go out of my way to frickin' try every bit of new food at least once. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them came back as I freaking hated this. I knew I hated this. Still don't like olives. You know, still don't like onions. Still don't like a lot of seemingly vegetarian food. Well, I'm more like vegan alternatives. Still don't like any of them. Don't like tofu. But some stuff I came out of it and went, I blimmin' love this. How have I not ever, like come across this before? Why has this not been in my life forever? You know, for example, like chili. For the longest time, didn't really have chili. As soon as I started having more stuff with chili in it, I realised chili tasted absolutely incredible. And now it's in everything. Same with garlic. Like, garlic used to be a side thing, but I never wanted it to overpower anything. I tried it, and like, now new foods is my passion. And that's what I'm kind of hoping will happen here, is that, like, talking with new people and broadcasting my voice out to people is something that I would never, like, it literally, like, school plays and stuff the stuff that's happened in, like, school plays still haunts me to this day, right? I remember very vividly every school play I did and every blimmin' mistake I made. Right? And it's never been my thing, but maybe if I give it a try, maybe it is my thing. And so that's sort of what I'm hoping here. I'm hoping that this sort of step forward that I do will unlock something that I previously thought was something I didn't really like. Yeah, it's something I thought was great to watch, but at the end of the day, that's as far as it goes, right? It's something I watch, and the people who do it are so much better than me. And like, that's the reason I watch them, right? But now I realise that that's probably the case. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still a pessimist at heart. I still think of this as like, there are so many people that you definitely should be, watching that's much better than me. And, like, I don't believe I deserve to be making any sort of money out of this or anything. But I'm going to push myself out there and try it. And maybe some people disagree with me. Maybe they're like, no, you're an idiot. You're great at this, and you should continue to do with it. And if that happens, I mean, that's huge motivation for me. Absolutely huge motivation for me. God, I mean, it's getting close to 2 hours, and that kind of feels like the blimmin' perfect way to end this. But it doesn't end us with a win, and I can't allow that. I mean, I can probably allow it as soon as but we've got to do one more, right? We've got to go for that win. We didn't get a win this time. I didn't even think we got a top 4. We might have gotten one top 4. Can't allow that. Also, haven't got to play like demons. My favourite faction. So this is going to give me a demon faction. Okay, it didn't give me a demon specific one, but Guff is really good. Not like constructed format Guff. But it's decent. And we're gonna get this win. We're definitely gonna get this win. Or not, but probably we will. And demons immediately. Oh, I'm feeling this. I am feeling this. Not a single person in here has a demon specific one as well. We've got this. We've got this. It's the energy of the universe telling me that it wants me to win this one. To prove that like the 2 years that I've been playing this on and off isn't completely useless. Okay, well, a loss straight away isn't great, but we have a lot of armor, and everybody always likes it when people make a comeback, right? Everyone always likes a comeback story. Also, doesn't help that person also was going demons, but maybe he's smarter than me and he's hedging his bets and he's not going to go demons. I'm hoping no one goes demons except for me. I'm hoping I can sort of stamp my flag in the demons place, right? Also, I don't think it's likely, but if any of you are in this game, please don't go demons. I don't mind if you beat me, just don't go demons. Just for me, please. Taking a bit. Oh, that person also had a demon. I saw that. I was taking a swig, but I saw that. Maybe this was actually the world playing a cruel trick on me. Because this demon's the worst demon to get when you don't have other demons. I'm still going to get it, because I do that, and I think I've got a good chance of winning, but we need to get the soul guy, the Soul Dude is really, really powerful. I talked about him for a while. Soul Rewinder, I think he is. And we need to get. We kind of just as soon as we get a Soul Rewinder, we sort of the build works, right? It's this guy, the blimmin' I get more powerful the more damage, the more I damage you by you putting down demons guy. I don't know, I've been using him for so long, don't actually know his name. What is his name? Wrathreaver. I think I'm going to call him Jeremy. No, we need to keep... Oh, there he is! Also, just look at this guy. Really cool art. It's like a maestro. I think he was from the musical one. So he's like I think he's like a maestro, like, opera guy. Right, I wonder if I can get a better image of it. Hold on a second. Whoop. We're gonna just do this. No. Gonna keep going like this, and we're gonna go like this, and we're like, okay, is that better? He's cool, isn't he? Right, now I'm got to fix the problem I've made here. You don't want to see that I've got literally no friends. Right? Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Maybe even a bit bigger. Why not? You don't want to see that stuff. You don't want to know my name either. I mean, it's been on the screen the whole time, so like, because I didn't even think about that for now. But you know what? I'm pretty confident that this will be fine and won't screw me over. Because, I mean, what's the chances that, like, of the two people it's saying they're watching right now, they have a blimmin', what is it, a battle net thing. It's so unlikely. It's, yeah, I'm feeling happy about this, honestly. I'm feeling decently happy about this start. It's not as off to the races as you kind of want with them, like, because you can snowball really easily. You know what I could do? Is I realised, actually, that this bit here is just a load of wasted space that I could have easily just cordoned off and given you like a bigger version of the screen. Because like even on this side, this bit's effectively wasted space. But then would it have looked stretched out? I don't know. I don't know enough about this technical stuff. You'll probably come into a stream and either next week or the week after, and I'll have forgotten that it might be a bad idea, and I'll just have decided that screw it, I'm gonna give it a try, and just you'll come in and it'll be really wide and we'll be playing this, or we'll be playing honestly the short list of games I'm gonna be playing is probably either this, because I quite like this. I might play Loop Hero, because I like playing Loop Hero kind of casually. Never done the final boss, can never get even close to it, but I mean that can be a goal, right? Like how this one goal was to get a win. The goal for that one could easily just be to beat, I think it's supposed to be in the lore God, but like I don't know. It gets really weird, the bosses in that, because it starts off with a lich and you're like, okay, it's just a lich, right? But you look at it and you go, hold on a second, that lich has like star powers and has like celestial bodies in its body. And then the next enemy is just an angel that has stained glass windows that reflects damage and summons temporary invincible summons that do a couple of attacks and disappear. And you're like, okay, that's generically like, it's not too weird, at least if you're into manga and stuff, to see angels are evil as like a trope. So that never really surprised me. But then like the next person is a hunter, but he's got like dogs that are black holes. And I'm like, I don't really understand the aesthetic. So the god could be literally anything. In that, I haven't even seen him. Like, that's how bad I am at this. I'm a loop hero, but I just play it casually, right? Another possibility, but I think it's a bit unlikely, is there was a fair amount of time, I don't do it as much now, where I played Monster Train, but I played it with 2 of the tribes, because you choose 2 tribes, a primary one and a secondary one, and I just had this one strategy I liked, and I just continued doing that strategy. And it was just like loads of free spells and buffs to my units for every spell I did on their floor. And that's it. That's literally it. And so, I don't know, I don't think it's likely I'll play Monster Train. It's possible I'll play this again. It's also likely that I'll play Disfigure, because that game was quite fun. I think there's a chance I play Loop Hero. There's a chance I play Risk of Rain Returns as well, because that game's very, very fun. And I haven't played that in a bit, and I feel like that'd be pretty good to play on stream. And that's another game where I've played a lot, admittedly a lot with my friends, but I've never completed it solo. I've never beaten the boss solo. So I think that would be an interesting challenge to do. Oh god, this person looks like they went demons, but went better demons than me. That's worrying. I think I'm just being very lucky in terms of the trades here. Damn, until the very end. If that had switched trades, I would have won, I think. It's fine, I think I'm doing better because I don't know if he had a soul rewinder. And it's kind of needed because you're sacrificing your health and it adds up after time, right? I think I win the what's it called? The late game. That's the word. God, there was a portion when I was thinking of like what I was gonna do here, where I was like, oh, do I try and go family friendly with it? And I realized it was borderline impossible. Not because like I don't really swear that often, right? Like it's not a huge part of it, of my vocabulary. But I think there is a portion. There's a portion of it where I do slip up a lot, right? I slip up and I would make mistakes and I would feel, it would only be slightly, but I would feel like I would be restricting myself by a fair amount, right? I think it's a real possibility, and I would be really annoyed if that was happening. Oh, this guy's just got a better build than me. Although maybe I've got better. I think I know I said the exact same thing, but I think I might actually have a better build than him. Both long term and right now. That's so rare. I instinctively just assumed I lost. You know what I wouldn't mind trying actually again? I was never really any good at it, but I had a lot of fun playing Dota Underlords. I don't know if that game's still going. I've got a sneaking suspicion it isn't. But if it is, I wouldn't mind giving that game a shot again. I think it would be fun for like a, you know, a quick, you know, just a small 2-hour window. And it's a similar, they're both auto battlers, although I think positioning is a lot more of a bigger thing when it comes to those ones. And it's not as much like number go up, number good kind of thing. You know, like the blimmin' ogre in my brain that goes, number go up, number good. You know, that I think it's innate to everyone, but they can just hide it better. And I know I keep going back to this because I think I've said it in many other streams, but I do want to give Baldur's Gate a try at some point. Not on this stream slot, because this stream slot is specifically made not to be long form RPGs, right? But as soon as I finish Rogue Trader, I feel like I have to give it a shot, right? And I think it'd be interesting because I think I would probably be doing something that I don't think a lot of people do in that game, which is I will be playing one of the voice acted characters, I feel. I will be playing my favourite character, and I'm going to be completely honest, I'm probably playing her because it's the only situation where you can guarantee that you'd definitely romance with her because you are her. But I'd be probably choosing Carl Ash. I think she's my favourite, and also I think I'm not the minority in saying that. I think I realised early on in my life that my views are not that unique. I know it's a weird thing to say, right? But I looked at... Okay, we're good. I looked at, like... How do I sort of say it? I looked at... what people like and what people talk about, right? Yeah, there was no way I was getting that guy. And I realised that my opinion always went... almost always went with the general public. And then there was a part of me, and this is a bit embarrassing, I think I still do it to a certain extent now, but there was a part of me that would then, realising this, would actively, I guess, lie to myself about my opinions to choose one that specifically would be like not the obvious one, right? So it'd be like, say, I don't know, let me think of a... Let me think, let's say you have a situation where you can choose fire, water, or air, right? Or earth. You got 4 options. Everyone's going fire. Everyone blimmin' loves fire. Everyone blimmin', like, second on there is air. Everyone blimmin' loves air. And if they're not playing fire, they're playing air. And it's like, water got a cult following. I would be going actively, even if I didn't really like it, I'm going earth. Earth is my favourite. Why? Because other people are going for these other ones, and I want to seem unique, right? And there's a part of me that still does that, right? I'm gonna play this, and if that one dies, I'm gonna be sad. Oh, why? That's a risk I was willing to take. That music was not great to have at that point either. There's a portion of it I think I still do it to this day, but I don't. I also think that to a certain extent, for some situations, I do actually just have unique tastes. Like in that hypothetical, I would actually choose Earth. But that's just because I found, for the longest time, whenever there was a game and you chose an element, a lot of the time I used to choose fire, and fire was normally quite simple. But then I realised that earth was almost always the simplest one. And that sort of gave me this, like, affection with earth. And after that I was just like, I'm always going earth. Earth is just the best one. And then later on in my life, I realised that the kind of like fun and interesting factions that I get drawn to are nature factions, right? I love nature factions. Powerful, like dark, twisted nature, or even just powerful nature in general. I love it. It's my favourite trope in anything, right? And so Earth happens to be the one that is almost... Yeah, he does have a better build than me. This is gonna blimmin' hurt. Let's emote him. Oh! Oh no! Yeah, I almost died there. Damn. So yeah, like, I found myself picking Earth a lot more because I knew for... Oh, I got a... That's rare. Because I knew that I had a specific... Like, I had a higher chance of getting nature. And I was just like, nature 100%. So... That hypothetical wasn't the best hypothetical. But you know what I'm sort of trying to get across, right? I had a... I guess the best word for it was I innately was hipster-like. I was very heavily like a fake hipster, where I just choose what was the least liked, and then I would go, this is the one that I'm choosing. For better or for worse, right? And it's a thing that I think I've gotten over, but also I think in the process I actually unironically I think I unironically just now actually like a couple of things that are not normal, which is it's weird to say, and actually easily could just be me still having that innate sort of like hipster attitude that I used to have. I think I've realised that is everybody that's around going demons. What? The top 4 was demons. How is that possible? I thought you used the strategy of like, I thought the whole shtick was if you had too many people going the same thing, you're less likely to get that thing. But, like, I never felt like I was getting cut off of any demons. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm dead to this guy. And by pretty sure, I'm borderline 100% sure that this dude is going to absolutely roll me. But there is always a chance that he takes pity in me and lets me get this cool dude. He's pretty cool if he didn't always give you the ones you don't want. If he gave me Wind Fury every time, I'd love him. But he doesn't. This guy always gives me blimmin' Taunt. Don't you? Don't you? But I do like that you can... It allows you to do Magnetism, which is my second favourite build to go, on my demons, which are my first favourite build. So you know. You can see why he's like one of my favourites. I just wish you gave me Wind Fury. But yeah, I'll be honest, I don't think we're winning this, but demons did win, so we can kind of take this as a win, right? It's almost a win. Look, in my line of in my sort of life, I've had to take these wins. These wins count. When it's like you don't win, but the people who do win use the similar strategy to you. I mean, sure, you both knew that was the best strategy, but it counts. It still counts. You have to take those. Because if you don't, I don't know, you're just sitting there like kind of annoyed with yourself for not doing very well. That's never fun. That's just not fun to go by. Yeah, we're screwed. He's got Divine Shield on his best dude, and I think that dude itself is going to wipe out most of my team. And I have 7 health, which means probably inherently it's going to do 6 damage to me, and then these stars are going to do loads. I'm a blimmin' genius. I didn't even know that. I guessed. Oh, at least it's Christmassy. I mean, it's almost disrespectful because it's January at the moment, but I think we're still within the 12 days of Christmas thing, where you're allowed them on 12 days after Christmas. Is that a thing? That might only just be for me. Anyway, it's been a lovely time, actually. I think, honestly, this has mostly just been me venting. But hey, maybe that's another thing that is good about streaming. It allows me to vent my my feelings, and maybe it helps mentally. I don't know. Probably not that much. Anyway, I hope you've liked this. I think it's the 2 people who followed. I'm sorry I didn't say your names, but I'm very bad at pronouncing their names. But I hope you stay, and at this point, I hope you're not trying to sell me overlays. Sorry if that sounds mean, but I don't need them. Anyway, this will be me. I hope you've liked everything here. I've had a lot of a good time, so I hope you have as well.